It's just growing. It's just growing pains.
What's up, guys? Episode 3, Growing Pains.
Nice. Well, you just listened to a sweet ass intro. It was
Son. Yeah.
We're gonna make some more. We're gonna figure out other ones.
Yeah, we're gonna just make stuff up just to throw my voice.
Yeah,
and my
let's
girlfriend.
have segments just so we can have intros.
Yeah. So if you just hear random singing, that's why.
It'll be the random singing segment.
Yeah, that's right. That's what we need.
All right, so the first one we're going to talk about is the chocolate bar system. And it sounds weird, but again, this was something I picked up in a parenting class. And what's funny is, let's say I go to a parenting class and maybe 80% is either something I've already heard or something that doesn't work, or that I'm like, or my wife and I are like, and then we get one thing, and we were like, wow, that's really good. And it was worth it. It has saved us so much heartache and so much energy and frustration and anger. It's crazy. Because we have 3 boys, again, obviously. We had one kid, and then the second kid came along, and that's when he started having sort of his own stuff. So he could eat a candy bar, but his younger brother couldn't because he was a baby. But eventually, they could both eat a candy bar, and then, the youngest couldn't. But now we have 3, and, it's weird to hear a 17-year-old, a 15-year-old, and a 12-year-old sort of negotiating how they're going to eat this candy bar. And the way it works is, let's say you and I had a candy bar, and we have to split it. Well, when I was a kid, what I would do is I'd break off obviously smaller piece, 40, 30%, and then I'd go, here you go. And the younger brother would always be like, what? That's not fair. And I'd be like, life's not fair, and shove him in the face and walk away, right? Or I'll take his piece of candy and throw it on the ground and be like, cool, now how you like your candy. And that's, if you leave children to their own devices, it will be like survival of the fittest. The strongest, meanest, most aggressive kid is going to get the lion's share, and you're going to have problems. They're going to fight with each other. You're going to have to solve who gets what ice cream, and it just becomes a huge headache. So what we would do when we had 2 of them is we would say, okay, who wants to split it? And by the way, I knew what I was going to do ahead of time. I did not tell them because I wanted them to remember this lesson. So I said, who wants to split it? And the oldest goes, I'll split it. And he goes to cut the candy bar, and he clearly cuts it. I think it was like 70-30. I mean, it was a small little piece for his brother. And so he goes to pick up the big piece, and I said, hold on, wait, what are you doing? I didn't say that was your piece. I said, you get to split. I go, so your brother gets to pick. Well, his little brother went from like, oh man, to yeah! And he grabs that big old piece of candy. And the older brother's like, what? That's not fair. What's weird is he immediately went to, that's not fair. I'm like, what do you mean? You got to split it. He's like, yeah, but I thought I was going to get the bigger piece. I go, exactly. So you're only fair when you know that the system's going to be against you. That's when you want it to be fair. But if you think you're controlling everything, then you don't want it to be fair. And now you have to suffer the consequences of that greed. This is your penalty for being greedy. And now you know how your brother feels. The last 17, 18 times that you guys had a candy bar and you had to split it and he got this small ass piece. That sucks, dude. So he gets to feel that and he's like, oh man. So then the next time I say, okay, who wants to split it? Well, the oldest one, he's like, I'm onto your tricks, old man. I'll let the younger one split it. And he thinks the younger one's going to try to make a big piece. But Michael learned from Matthew's mistake. And I think I want to say he was like 4, Michael. And Matthew must have been 6 because he's 2 years older. So he thought Michael would do a 70-30 split and then Matthew would end up with 70%. But what Michael did was
pull out a rule.
Yeah, he's like taking his time deciding where he's going to cut. He was like, and he looks, and then and I go, good job. You get a pick. Even though he split, I go, you get a pick. And Matthew's like, I get a pick. I said, I never said that. So you don't know the system. You don't, and I'm never going to tell you what it's going to be, so that every single time you'll try to be as fair as you can. That what you have to do is imagine this might turn out bad for me, and you got to be okay with that, because that's how life is, right? I'm going to try to be as fair as possible, and sometimes, I mean, again, sometimes they'd be like, dang it, I accidentally cut one peanut too many onto his Snickers bar. And you'll be surprised after a couple of years, like the younger one, let's say the younger one goes to split a candy bar or a cookie or whatever, and he accidentally goes like 55-45, and then I'll be like, okay, it's your brother's turn to pick, oldest one's pick. And he would take the smaller piece. He'd be like, you can have the bigger piece this time. Next time I get the bigger piece. They started going, this might not always be in my favor, so I got to think long term. And they do. They go, hey, remember I gave you the bigger piece last time. Can I have the bigger piece this time? Now, let's say the middle kid, I say, hey, you're picking, and his brother gave him the bigger piece, the 55. It's his turn to pick. He takes the 55, and he's like, and that's for the moment. I go, okay. I go, now, Matthew, I'm going to buy you your own. Let's go. We're going to the store. What for? I'm going to get you your own. You're going to get a whole, that 45% and another one, because you did the right thing last time, and your brother did the wrong thing this time. So yeah, you got your 55%, but now Matthew gets 145%. He gets a whole candy bar plus that 45. And so real fast, they start to see, I've got to be as fair as I can. And and now that we have 3, there's times where I go, okay, you get to make the first cut, and you better picture 3 pieces, because then he gets to make the second cut, and then the kid who never made a cut, he gets to pick first, and then the first kid gets to pick second, and then whoever made the last cut gets to pick third. And so they start, like you said, they pull out rulers, man. They're like, got protractors. They're like, okay, a cake is round, so I got to do the 33.33% of an angle. And I mean, they try to get it as fair as possible. And they'll do things like, if there's a cake and there's a strawberry, they'll start the negotiation. They'll go, okay, who wants the strawberry? They've learned over the years to go, let's make sure everything's on the table. Okay, who wants the strawberry? So let's imagine the older one, he doesn't like strawberries. And the younger and the middle one do. The middle one might go, okay, I'll take the strawberry for a little bit smaller piece, but I get the strawberry. And the other two go, cool, that's fair. Here's your piece. And now, the youngest one gets to pick first, and then the oldest one picks last. Or, again, whoever got the slice last. So, this thing has grown that they have figured out how to share an Xbox. I want you to imagine a household where 3 boys, rarely, I can count on one hand, they rarely get into a fight over the Xbox. Because it's okay, it's my hour right now, and your hour's next. But you can come to me and say, brother, my friends are about to be online. Can I please play my hour now, and I'll give you my next turn. You'll get 2 hours of playtime. And they go, yeah, no problem. And there's even been times where one brother goes, yeah, okay, you can play with your friends. And then they're done, so now it's back to them again. They play, and then they could have an extra hour, and they go, you know what, no, I understand. I know what it's like to want to play with my friends online. Don't worry about it. And I mean, man, here's me. I'm in the background like, it's so beautiful, right? So this system of learning how to be really fair, especially, again, at the beginning, I had to sort of manipulate it a little bit so that they could see, look, sometimes life isn't fair. Like I better, it's like that pay it forward. I better pay it forward because I don't know. If I go for the greedy choice, it might not pan out. Now, again, it might. I mean, there's plenty of people who are greedy and get away with being greedy, but at the cost of their soul, right? And so now they're better friends, they're better brothers. Now, again, they've had disagreements. They've in fact, just recently, the middle one and the youngest one came to me, and they're like, if they can't solve the problem, they got to come to me. And then if they're coming to me, what they're saying is, Dad, we can't figure this out fairly. We need you. And then what I usually do is try to figure out who's being unfair, and then that person gets less. So coming to me is a risk. Because if I hear both sides and I go, okay, here's what I think, but you were being unfair, therefore you're going to get less time, or you don't get to play today, or he's going to get 2 hours, or whatever. My judgment is I'm not shooting for 50-50. What I'm doing is going, you were being greedy and unfair. Therefore, you lose more than your 50%. You now only get 10 minutes of playtime, and your brother gets 50 because you were being unfair. So when they bring it to me, they have to make sure they've made a real attempt to be fair to each other and to figure it out. And it saves me so much time. So today they came, and it went like this. Michael, the middle one, says, Dad, Mark's being unfair. I said, what's going on? It was Mark's turn to play, but he was sitting on the couch and he had his headphones on. And I went to him and I said, hey, are you going to play your hour right now or can I play mine? He didn't answer me. So I left and I started to play. Well, he came in 30 minutes later and said, hey, it's my turn, get off. But I was already in the middle of a game and I'm online with my friends, and he embarrassed me in front of my friends, and he's trying to get me to get off the computer. So I say to Mark, I'm like, is that true? He goes, yes, I had my headphones on, but he didn't tap me on the shoulder. He didn't let me know he was talking to me. I had no idea he was talking to me. So, and then I come in and I find him playing. So I feel like it's unfair because he didn't come over and go, Mark, it's your turn to play. What he did was he went, Mark, it's your turn to play. Well, I guess you don't want to play, and went and took the computer. And so right there, I went, Mike, you did the wrong thing. You knew your brother couldn't hear you. There's been times where Mike has his headphones on and he can't hear us calling him for dinner. He can't hear us, when it's his turn. There's been times it's been Mike's turn, and Mark walks over and goes, hey, Mike, it's your turn to play. Because they have a laptop or whatever, and they're listening to music or playing a game or whatever on a different device. And so I said, Mike, you did the wrong thing, dude. I go, but Mark, you know what it's like when your friends get online and you want to play. So you should have some grace and mercy. So here's the judgment was, it's Mark's turn. But Mark can give you this time, but if he does, he gets 2 turns in a row after this. And so for Mark, that was an easy call. He's already 30 minutes into an hour. Like, go ahead, finish with your friends, and I get 2 hours after. And Mike learns a lesson. You were not being fair. Your brother comes over and taps you on the shoulder when it's your turn. You're trying to be like, it's your turn. No response. Right?
Yeah, trying to be slick about it.
Right, the appearance of being fair. And once I explain it to them, they usually get it. Now, again, I've had them be in a bad attitude, like, and I go, oh, okay, you think this is as unfair as it can get? Wrong. You don't get to play for 2 days. You're done. Go to your room. And they're like, right? So they learn real fast. This is not as unfair as it can be. Like, I don't know, I'll break the thing. I'll smash it. I'll make you watch me break it, right? But luckily, I've never had to do it.
I'll break the Xbox, and then you guys can pick the bigger piece.
yeah. Well, I'll make them buy a new one. I make them earn it.
I like 2 aspects of that because, it's like the golden rule of just, like, treat people how you want to be treated.
Yeah.
But I also like that aspect of, like, we're fighting to be fair, but at the same time, life isn't fair.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's almost that aspect of karma of like, try to do the right thing and be surprised with you, ending up good, or do the wrong thing and watch how it blows up in your face.
Yeah. And two, I think it's wrong or not wrong, but I think it's misguided to try to teach children, oh, what goes around comes around. Because that's not true. You can live your life very honest and very good and have very little money, have very little friends, Nelson Mandela was in prison for years for doing the right thing. So that's now, again, he ends up getting out, he gets a Nobel Peace Prize, he ends up accomplishing great things in life. However, many men, just like Nelson Mandela, went to prison and died in prison, and it never got better. Like, they're forgotten in history. So I think it's misguided. Now, we can hope for that. I can say we can hope for that. I want them to be optimistic, but that's not necessarily true. It's not for sure going to happen. So you got to be okay with doing the right thing and it never paying off in the long run, right? That's an internal reward.
Yeah, you can't do it for like a reward you hope for in the future.
Yeah.
And I think that's a perfect aspect of like how you're saying like what goes around comes around.
Yeah.
It kind of goes into our next topic of like standing up for yourself, and the right and wrong ways to do it is like sometimes people will like let people just like shit on them, and then they'll think, oh, okay, because I allowed this, that it's gonna be better for me, or eventually they just get like what is that, disgruntled about it.
Yeah.
And then they're like, you know, do the thing, and then they get punished, you know, like they stand up like, F you, and then they get hit in the face, and they're like, oh, well, this is why I don't stand up.
Yeah.
And it's really about, no, you should stand up for yourself, but just like cutting the cookie or knowing who's really fair is like, you have to figure out the right way to do it.
Yeah, yeah. And I find for me, for myself, that what I've got to do is the way my son Mike did this morning, where he went, Mark, it's your turn. No response? Okay. I got to make sure I'm not being biased. Because again, in Mike's mind, when he came up, you know, I think, so there's two things. I think deep down he knew he did the wrong thing. That's why he did it the way he did it. But I think he had the appearance of being fair, and even there's this weird thing people do. They mentally, they go, I'm in the right. I told Mark it was his turn. He didn't respond. That's on him. And in a way, he's right. I mean, in a way. If his brother Mark had never come over, or if his brother Mark had done that to him in the past, then my judgment might have been like, well, you see, you've done this to him, and now he did it to you, and you don't like it. So now, from now on, I'm going to have to make a rule where you have to go over and touch the other brother on the arm and let him know that it's his turn, right? I wish I didn't have to make that rule, but I might have to make that rule because you guys are too immature. And so real fast they start to go, oh, okay, I need to stand up for myself, but in a way that's fair to the other person, and without the expectation of a reward in the long run. Like, I can't be nice to you thinking, man, well, Sam's going to do me this favor and this favor and this favor and this favor, because then it's not honest or real. And that's it. So I got to watch myself for bias when I go to stand up for myself. So if let's say we had something that was, in fact, recently with my Fight Right self-defense company, I had a client who, what I like to do the first time they ever have a lesson, I always give way more. I give them a free lesson. And so this was for firearms training, but it's kind of expensive to do firearms training. So I said, okay, well, I clearly up front, we were talking over text, I said, we can go to the range, but then you've got to pay $17.95 for yourself, and then you got to pay $17.95 for me. You're going to pay my entry. And then I'll take care of everything else. I'll get you the glasses, the earplugs, the ammo, which is like $200. I'm going to bring 6 different guns. Here's how we're going to be there for about 3 hours, because we're not going to do all this for just an hour of fun or half an hour. Well, they say, yeah, that sounds great. Set it up. So the day before, confirming we're still going to meet at the gun range. And they go, okay, yeah, but I can't figure out why you're charging me an extra $17.95. And I'm like, excuse me? And they're like, well, I called and I looked, and it's only $17.95 for one person. Why am I paying $32, $33? And I go, well, because I told you that you would pay my entry fee. It's in the text. If you look above this text, because we were texting, it's about 6 messages up. I clearly said you were going to pay my entry fee. And so then they go, oh, fine, I guess. And I'm like, all right, listen. I was doing you a favor. I was about to create a $300 experience for you, because I was going to bring 6 different guns, which you have to rent from $12 to $20 an hour. I was going to bring 300 rounds of ammo for each gun. That's about $169 worth of ammo times, that's almost $600 really, but part of it was 22. So anyways, I'm like, I know guns, and I know ammo, and I know what it takes to go shooting, and I'm giving you $300 worth of value besides my time. I'm also going to give instructions. And you're accusing me of cheating you over $17.95, which I didn't, by the way. I told you. So I lay this all out. This is all in text. And again, I do it this way because I want to make sure I don't have bias, that I'm pissed off about giving away free stuff. So that if that was really it, then I need to check myself and not offer that free stuff, because now I'm doing it with the, like, again, you better become my client, and you better, in the long run, make this worth my time. Which, as a business, obviously I want, but then I shouldn't offer it for free. If it's really going to bother me, I shouldn't offer it for free. And so I had to stand up for myself, and then I have to reevaluate. I had to be like, okay, if this is going to be a problem for me, I need to stop bringing that deal, because what it's created with me was this reaction of, oh, how dare you. It might be better to go, you know what, I'll pay my entry fee and then we'll look at the prices for ammo and you'll pay me. You can either buy the ammo from them or you pay me the same price. And so the client ended up canceling, obviously they were like, oh, well, it feels weird and it's not what I thought it was going to be. And I'm like, no, that's fine. Bye. And we're done. Right? So.
Yeah, and it's funny because with that story, it kind of reminds me of our last podcast of like when you're talking about, standing, well, I wouldn't call it standing up, but you were complaining about the dishes, but then you're like, oh, I have to check myself of like, do I want to do this? Because once I step in this, it's like, there's no going back.
Yeah.
And so I feel like there was an aspect for each of you guys of that, like, where he thinks he needs to stand up for himself, but
Correct.
he didn't think thoroughly of like, okay, what am I getting out of this?
Right.
And on top of it, he didn't even do the groundwork of like, let me reread a text.
Yeah.
And in those situations, just screenshot, send it back.
Yeah.
You don't even have to reply because you can't even be offended because you're just like.
Well,
"Dude, I
it's
just said
funny.
it."
I don't know how to screenshot. I'm very technology impaired. And then on his, when he said "fine," I guess or something like that, I accidentally hit the laughing emoji. So I was trying to copy and paste something, and the freaking laughy emoji came up, and it goes, blah, 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 and there's a laughy one, and I'm like, oh damn, I'm like frozen. I don't want to let go of my finger, and I'm like, and it goes, bloop. I'm like, hey, I apologize for that. I accidentally hit the emoji. I don't know how to delete it. So then he actually talked me through it. He goes, oh, you have to click it again, and then hit the emoji again, and it'll go away. So I go to do that, and I accidentally like put a sticker of a laughing emoji. And I'm like, damn it, bro, I'm old. I said, I don't know what's happening here. And
He's like, yeah, he didn't even believe you.
yeah.
He might have canceled it just on that. You're like, I don't get this.
Yeah.
LOL.
Yeah.
How do I delete it? LOL, LOL.
Yeah. And then I think I even accidentally hit the laughy emoji on the sticker of the laughy emoji. And I was just like, I'm so done. I said, I'm so done. I'm so done. Now what's interesting is afterwards, that client actually was like, oh, you know what? I see now that, because again, his big thing was like, he basically was going, look, I don't have the money for $32 or $33. I'm like, oh, well, that's a completely different thing then. You can't go shooting. You can't shoot for less than, there's times, average person spends $100, $150 to go to the shooting range. The people I know that really love guns and own guns, man, if I'm going, because I have to, think about it, I have to take all my guns out of my safe, I gotta load them up, lock them up, I gotta put them in the car, I gotta put all my ammo, I gotta drive there, I gotta unload all that stuff, pay my fee, get in there, set up my targets, and so now I'm gonna be here 2-3 hours. That's for me worth it. But this person was so far outside of shooting that they're thinking, well, how much does it cost to shoot all day at the range? 17? Right?
Sure been.
Yeah, yeah.
Sure.
And they just had no clue. They had no clue.
I'd be like, tell you what, well, you can't afford this, but I'll give you a free lesson called 50, 30, 20.
yeah.
Like, you need to start prioritizing your money here if the $17 was
And
the
you know what's
deal breaker.
funny is that standing up for myself, number one, I learned I got to check myself. I shouldn't be offering such a good deal if it's going to bother me. Because again, I could have just went, oh, I'll just pay my entry fee. And then maybe I get a client and I make some money here. So I got to either stop because that's what caused me to go raw. But also, for them, I'm going, oh, let me just explain. Like, you just don't even know. You don't even know what it takes to go shooting. So let me explain it to you. And now I wasn't angry. And in fact, at the end, they go, are we good? And I'm like, yeah, on my side, I could see it was a lack of communication or miscommunication. I'm good. And they're like, cool. And so.
Yeah, so maybe the thing is just explaining a lot more thoroughly next time.
Yeah.
So that they know what they're getting.
Right.
The bang for their
Correct.
buck.
Yeah, because I didn't do that. Because in my brain,
You
I
just
went,
assume,
yeah,
you
I'm like,
understand.
who wouldn't know that? Who wouldn't know
Yeah.
that you're getting way more?
Well, the person that can only spend $17 to get into the range would not understand once you're there how much it can cost.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's perfect for the standing up for yourself. Another perfect topic is, these are all kind of go hand in hand with each other.
I agree.
But this one is like more self-reevaluating part of it, in the sense of, there's two aspects of like learning how to deal with the jerk, and then also learning how to deal with you when you're being a jerk.
Yeah.
And as far as the whole bias thing, it's like it's easier to deal with a jerk if you're okay with standing up for yourself, because you're like, I can see where this person's wrong and then I can raw and be fine with it.
Yeah.
Versus when you're just raw and don't understand that there's something with you got to figure out.
Yeah.
It's a whole nother thing, like dealing with yourself when you're being the jerk.
Yeah, and by the way, again, living a really long time, this is something I've discovered, that it's an indicator. I call it an indicator because what it does is it tells me something's not right. It's like your oil light going on in your car, the check engine light or whatever. It's the same thing. So if I find myself going raw, it's an indicator there's something up. I got to figure something out. So I got to check myself. And sometimes it's even just talking with a person, like, look, I don't know why, but this bothers me, and here, and here's what I think is about it. And then they go, oh no, I never meant, and I go, okay, I just want to make sure it's true. You're not just saying that, because and so I find I'm better able to deal with people and conflicts by checking my bias and then dealing with their bias, like going, well, here's what I saw. Because again, we've had people who, they do something shady and you go, what's up with that, dude? So, for example, I never lend out money anymore. What's wrong?
You just have to wait for like you know what I mean? So when he's like stopping between things, just double click it real quick.
Cool.
It'll make it easier for future edits, but this is fine for now.
Sure. So I never lend out money anymore. If there's somebody that I want to help, I just give them the money. Because I used to lend out money like, yo, here's $100. And then, that dude owes me $100, and then I see him going to the movies, I see him buying dinner, I see him, and I'm like, in my brain I'm going, where's my money? You owe me money. How do you have money for the movies when that's my $100 you're spending? So again, in one way I'm right. What's up? You owe me money and here you are spending money out there. And another way I'm wrong. I realize if that's gonna bother me, then I should not lend out money. Just when somebody asks me, I go, hey, I don't lend out money because it bothers me. And I might even tell them, because then I start watching everything you're spending, and dude, it just bothers me, and I don't want that to ruin our friendship. Or I just give them the money. I go, no, here's your $100, and it's a gift. And they'll be like, no, I'm gonna pay you back. I'm gonna pay you back. I go, that's on you. As far as I'm concerned, it's gone. I forgot. It's forgotten. I don't. And I've had people come back and be like, here's that $100 you lent me. And I'm like, well, that's on you, dude. So you're giving me a gift of $100, so thank you. Right? And it just changes your attitude. And it keeps me from going, why is he going to the movies? See, now I'm thinking you're a jerk going to movies. When how do I know that's not why you borrowed the $100 in the first place, was to go to, I like going to the movies. Of course. I like eating out. I like going with my friends. So maybe and if I was going to have such a problem with it, if I was going to attach strings to it, then I shouldn't have lent it out. I just shouldn't. And it saved friendships. It saved family relationships where I could tell, I've seen other people, their relationships die. Now again, I've had people that I've given a gift of $100 and then the next week they go, hey, can I get another 100? Can you help me out again? And I'm like, no, I can't afford it. Or no, I feel like you're taking advantage of me, or there's something weird going on here. So I need to know what it's for. Now I need to know what's it for. And dude, I can't, because it's going to bother me. I'm going to give you this money and I'm going to watch you spend it and it's going to bother me. I can't. And you'd be surprised. People go like, no, it's cool, I understand, thank you. I didn't even give them anything.
Yeah, it's funny. And I've had this situation with friends before too. But I had this weird thing of like, I felt bad about saying no to people. So I get myself into things because I'm afraid to say no because I don't know how this person's going to react. Yeah. But then you find out it's that exact thing of it festers up inside of you, and then you react to them eventually like, no, I always do this, and they're like, dude, you could have just said no. Like, I was just asking, you know what I mean? How am I going to know if I don't ask? And then you're like, okay, I am being the jerk here, and you have to like take it back. Yeah. Another thing with like being the jerk thing is it's almost with the like when we talked about the abusive relationship segment of like, if you're being a jerk and then you're rationalizing it to yourself, that's a telltale sign, another indicator of like, okay, I'm the one being a jerk in this situation.
Yes.
Because it's that perfect thing of like, well, if it's gonna bother me, I'm not gonna do it, because like in any situation, if you're reacting like a jerk, it's not worth it. You know what I mean? You should have just not done that
in
thing.
the first place. I agree with that. And again, you know, sometimes I've explained to somebody that I go, so talking out loud and going through your thought process and what's going on in your heart is a really great exercise. So that when someone comes to me, I've had some crazy stuff happen in my life. You know, this one weirdo dude, he came to me and he's like, hey, can you give me $40? And I remember that's such a weird amount for an adult to ask for. And the way he did it, he came like kind of super sly. There were a whole bunch of people around, and he came super sly, and he's like, hey, can you give me $40? And so I immediately got a bad vibe from it, because nobody does that. But if I was going to borrow $40, I might be like, hey man, I left my wallet at home. Can I get $40? I'll pay you back later, or or maybe I need it. Hey, I got to feed my family. $40. It was the way he did it.
Super creepy.
Super creepy. And again, I know him, but he's not like my friend. He was an acquaintance. He's somebody I know. I know his name. I know his face, but we're not tight. So he does this lean in, and he's like, can I get $40? And so I just start talking out loud. I go, it feels weird the way you asked, and it makes me feel like you're going to use it for something I wouldn't agree with, or that you shouldn't be spending it on. So for now, my answer is no, dude. I'm sorry. And he got sort of very offended and like, well, fine. I was just asking. If I had it, I'd give it to you. And I'm like, and he's going like this. And for me, I'm going, okay, listen, I hardly know you, dude. And for you to get this angry with me, this is getting way aggressive. So you either need to calm down or get out of here. Like, if you're going to be this angry, you got to go somewhere else. But if you're going to stay around here, around me, in this area, you need to calm down. And now, again, I don't know what he was going to go by. I don't know why he was acting weird. But I was just talking out loud. And I remember him just blinking, like, blink, blink. And he's like, okay. And he just left. He just sort of wandered away and got in his car and left. And I'm like, cool. I didn't know that was what he was going to choose. I didn't think he would pick that. But I was just talking out loud, like, I'm like, if you're going to stay this angry, you got to get out of here. I'm not going to let you be around me angry at me this way. Or you can calm down.
I was pretty gangster.
And I didn't think he would pick that, but he did. He picked that.
He's probably like embarrassed at that point.
Right, yeah. And notice, by the way, if he hadn't left and stayed angry, I would have to leave. I would have to be like, hey, I got to get out of here. This dude's giving me a weird feeling. I already talked to him about it. He's not leaving, so I got to go because I don't want anything happening. So I'm out of here. And I've done that. I've had to be that. I've had to leave a party or leave an area. I'm like, no, that dude and I don't get along. And I've talked to him about it, and he knows where I stand. I gotta go. I can't be around him. See you guys later.
There's also that third option where he's like, oh yeah, my bad, dude. Like,
Right.
he could have just been hella cool.
Yeah. And I've had that where, again, through talking out loud, somebody explains, and I go, oh, wow, why did you, okay, that's here. Or, yeah, you can borrow my car, or whatever. But next time, ask like a normal person.
For real. But I guess the person that doesn't have the social awareness of like, not coming, like, can I get $40?
Yeah.
Doesn't know how to like handle it properly when he hears no. What's another topic we have? Oh, we have the two that go into each other where we're talking about work smarter, not harder, and like the snowball effect.
Oh, yeah.
I kind of have, because I talked a little bit about it in our very first podcast about the backstory, where I just kind of brought up my brother going to jail. Mm-hmm. But I didn't really explain that, like, when you really like cut hairs, it's definitely not my fault, but sometimes you kind of have to understand that you might be that first domino, and just because you don't know where those dominoes lead doesn't mean that first action you made wasn't the wrong one.
Right. Yeah, life doesn't care.
Definitely. And so I just kind of like, and it's funny because our very first one, when I asked you about your grandpa and stuff like that, we kind of went into, I was asking about like your seeds of how you had this transformation of like becoming the person you are. And I gave you a lot of credit to that, but one thing that I always tell you, because I always just like, I'm like, oh man, you did this for me. He's like, dude, it wasn't that hard. Like, I just had to give a nudge. Like, you did a lot of it. And I think that other seed was definitely that of like, I was doing shit I wasn't supposed to, and I was selling stuff, and this dude gave me fake money, and I think this is actually perfect for you know, are what we just talked about now, where standing up for yourself, right and wrong ways, and that aspect of being a jerk, where, you know, if I'm doing that type of things, it's kind of a code of like, oh, you got to chop it up to the game, you know? And, you know, at first I kind of tried to do that, but it gets to this point where you feel like you're disrespected, and then, you know, you're just thinking like, oh, well, I just can't let this stand.
Right.
And so you stand up for yourself, but you do it in the wrong way.
Right.
So in my situation, you know, I felt like I needed to run to my older brother.
Yeah.
When, you know, I already had gotten the advice of like, don't run to your older brother. You know, that was definitely not the right move. And so just from that, it just like spiraled into him being in jail for like 6 years. And, you know, you can't ever think that that very first aspect is just going to lead to that. But I think it's almost better to always assume that it can get, just like you're saying with the fair thing of like, oh, you think this is unfair? It can get a lot more unfair.
Yes.
So if you always have that rule of thumb of like, this could be worse, so I should just take my losses.
Correct.
You're always going to be better off.
You know, again, the way you're saying it and the realization you're coming to is what I figured out later in life than you, and I wish I had known it sooner. And I've taught it to my children, so it's just saved them a tremendous amount of heartache. And you know, you've brought up pieces of your situation and sort of generally talking about it. Exactly. Now, I want to offer you some sort of soul comfort. On one hand, it is sad that your brother has gone to jail and he's been gone, and he will be gone for a couple more years. But you don't know that that was the absolute worst outcome. He could have died. What if they brought a gun? You could have died. What if in all those dealings someone has shot you? Right? It happens all the time. It happens to famous people. It happens to people that have 20, you know, friends with them that are all have guns. Like, so on one hand, you're right. It sucks that your brother's separated from you, but it could have been way worse. Oh yeah. Yeah, one job.
You had one job. All right, what was the last word you said? Because that makes my editing so much easier.
I don't remember actually. I think it was something about like it could have been worse.
Okay, yeah, that'll work. Whatever.
Well, so the idea is, yeah, it sucks that your brother went to jail, but it could definitely have been. He could be dead, dude, and then you wouldn't be seeing him in 6 years. You'd be seeing him never. Like you have to wait to the other side or whatever. Or again, it could have been you. And if we could go into an infinite look, who knows, right? So it's definitely not the best, but it's definitely not the worst case scenario.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel a lot better about it too. And it's funny because that's like, you're saying a general like soul comfort, but I can get very detailed of like, that's for surely what would have happened.
Yeah.
Inside of 6 years, he's found out every friend he's ever had didn't care about him and was just using him for what he had.
Right.
So that's priceless. You know what I mean? Just for him to learn that lesson. On top of that, he weighs like 20 pounds more than me now, and he used to weigh like 400 pounds.
Wow.
So like, there's a bunch of stuff like, yeah, he's in prison, but there's a bunch of life lessons he learned. You know, he was so prideful, just like I was, about almost the same situation of like this sense of disrespect. You know,
right.
And it's like being in prison like teaches you like you're gonna get your pride taken away. So choose your battles.
Yeah.
And you know, now he doesn't walk around with a chip on his shoulder. And it's funny because I was there when they sentenced him, and the judge actually said to him, he's like, you can take this time and you have two ways to deal with it. He's like, right now I can notice you're an angry young man. He's like, you can do this 6 years, be angry, and end up with even more time than you got.
Yep.
Or you can lose that chip on your shoulder and like use this time to do something. And I'm just happy that it turned out that way. And honestly, there's probably not another way that it would have happened for my brother.
Yeah.
Like, he would not have made those transformations unless he had the hard dealings that he had.
Yeah.
So yeah, sometimes, you know, well, it's back then. I don't really now, as I used to carry that guilt of it. And it would actually lead me to what we're talking about now of like, you know, he'd ask me for things and I wouldn't feel comfortable with it, but I would do it just off the thing of like, I'm afraid of what happens if I say no.
Right.
But then you have that realization of like, okay, well now I'm being manipulated.
Correct.
So the right thing is to say no, and then you find that you're helping everybody of some heartache that they didn't need to deal with. And you're actually saving him of some things by just telling him no instead of like doing what he wants because you feel bad.
Right. And to, again, the talking out loud would help, where you go, look, I love you and I appreciate that you stood up for me and you were willing, but I can't do this. It makes me feel uncomfortable and I'm not going to. And so I hope this doesn't break our relationship or hurt our relationship, but I'm gonna have to say no. And then again, it's putting it back to their side, right? It's instead of me going, I'm going, from my side, we're all good, but I can't do this. Like, I know I owe you in terms of you stood up for me, but maybe I don't owe you. Maybe you shouldn't have. Maybe again, maybe, or earlier in my life, maybe being a better example. Who knows? Again, that goes back to, there's only one side of this conversation I can control. So for now, I'm gonna have to say no. Like, I appreciate what you've done for me, and I love you as my brother, but I gotta say no.
And honestly, I feel like it just saves a couple conversations, because like the way, you know, I'm kind of making this realization as we talk about it is, it's like I can either have that conversation right up front, or I have 3 conversations.
Right.
The first one is saying yes to something I don't want to, being bitter about it,
Right.
letting it fester, and then I react, and then he's like not understanding why I'm agitated
Right.
to him, and then I come to the third visit, calm down, and then we have that same conversation.
that you could have had
So,
the
yeah,
first
so
time, right.
really it's just
Right.
saving everybody a bunch of trouble.
And that's that whole smarter versus hard, working smarter rather than harder.
Definitely.
In my life, and people that I look up to, people that I admire, that are my role models, I find that life isn't really about like a power struggle, but it's about preserving what makes me comfortable. And then the rest of the world can rage all it wants, but I'm kind of like, I'm okay, I'm not doing that. And the more often you do that, the less people can grab pieces of you. And it makes it so like this time that I set aside, I enjoy doing this. But again, I mean, I've had to say no to family members that are like, hey, I need you to help me move. And I'm like, look, it's going to cost way too much money. I feel like the only time we talk is when you need something. And so you have my love, and I love you as my cousin, but I'm not driving to North Carolina to help you move. I'm sorry. I can't take that time away from my family and my friends and my life here. And I can't afford it, and I don't want to. So no.
And I almost think it's like a telltale sign of like how people react in those situations.
Right.
And you can tell,
Yeah.
you know, it's another talking point we have of like choosing your friends and like knowing, or even family, of just like who you put in that close circle. And that's a perfect example of like, I feel like it's always okay to ask for something, especially if you're in need. But
sure.
you got to reevaluate what your real motives are, and then also understand like, well, this could not turn out the way I want, and I can't just attack this person for not being
Right.
that.
Yeah. I agree. We're very close to our hour mark.
Okay. We can
question.
always cut it short, like
Oh, okay.
if you ever need to go anywhere. But yeah. I mean,
Sorry. When should I stop you guys? When it's like 26 minutes, what sign should I give or what should I give?
what do you mean stop us?
For me to reset the thingy?
Okay, yeah, that's what I was trying to explain. And we don't necessarily have to have a question a day. We could just exit, you know, just be like bye to the camera, and then I'll edit it. But so what you're doing is you pay attention to us talking, right? And he makes or he says something that's a little repetitive, and you just double click it real quick. So you don't have to stop us. It'll seem like an effortless edit, and I won't even have to edit that part.
Cool beans.
For sure. I don't have. Oh
What
yeah.
about-
So we
what
just.
about you? Do you have a question?
You got a question?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh.
Can you think of one? Didn't she come up with some? She had some.
Yeah. It was. Oh yeah. Proper conversation.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
All right. Sweet. So we have another anonymous question of the day.
I know who it is.
I do too. Just stare. So basically the question is, and it's more of like an observation, and then just kind of asked us to talk on it, and it's the idea of like, there's so much artificial or superficial like relationships, and even like the way people talk to each other, where, you know, if you notice me and Sanchez talk, we wait till the other person's finished their thought. We don't just interject randomly. The other thing is we're listening to what the other person says,
Yeah.
and then we're taking from that and we're building on it, instead of just like, man, I hope this person stops talking so I can say my idea. Like, there's a proper way to conversate, and then there's a way that, you know, you do on social network, where you can't see somebody's intentions, you can't, you know, have a real conversation. It's I saw your post, so I'm just gonna randomly comment and not even know the meaning of the situation.
Yeah. And to, you know, again, getting the smarter, working smarter instead of harder, dealing with jerks. Again, all of this stuff's interrelated because I find myself having less conversations that are meaningless. Like people that try to talk about the weather, I'm like,
it's smoky, deuces.
yeah. Or I've been at staff parties where someone's trying to talk to me and I go, I really would rather not talk about work right now. And they go, oh, I'm sorry. I go, no, it's okay. Let's talk about something else. Tell me somebody that you love that you wish could be here at this party. And they're like,
That's amazing.
yeah, they're like, my mom. And I'm like, why? What's her name? Meredith. Oh, cool. What's she do? Oh, she's a teacher. Oh, she's your teacher. Right now, we can have, instead of having small talk, we can have big talk. We can, instead of talking about the weather, we can talk about things that, and again, usually the person comes out of their shell. At the beginning, they're kind of like, this dude's a weirdo, which is fine with me, because then go bother somebody else with the weather. But oftentimes they go, I never knew you were this deep. And I'm like, well, no, it's just, I'd rather not waste my time.
I think that's an awesome rule of thumb, and I actually hope people take that because, I've been stuck in so many conversations. I've actually found, like, job I never create any real meaningful relationships with people because I rather not just talk to them about random stuff. I'd rather keep my headphones in and hope they don't talk to me. But maybe that's an awesome way to, like, get out of that behavior of just, like, you stop someone right in the middle of their small talk and you're like, so, and that's a perfect question to ask somebody because how do you not have something deep from that?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Another good one is, they'll be talking about, like, there was this kid one time, we were playing airsoft and we were in the parking lot and he comes up to me and he goes, yeah, I'm in the Marines. Well, I was in the Marines. And I went, hold on. Isn't it Semper Fidelis? Isn't it always? Aren't you always a Marine? Once a Marine, always a Marine? So in my brain, immediately, this kid's lying about being a Marine. Now, again, I could have been like, stolen valor, and,
Pull your
freaked out.
phone out and
Yeah,
start
start
recording.
recording him. And I could have gone that route, but instead I decided to give some forgiveness here, and I could really see this kid's just lonely, dude. He's just lonely. So I'm like, who are you here with? He's like, oh, my buddy Jason. I'm like, how do you know him? Oh, we went to school together. How long have you been playing airsoft? And I just took the conversation down. I'm like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? What are you, 20? He's like, yeah. I'm like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? He's like, I don't know. Maybe I might go to college. And so I ended up having this deep conversation with this random ass dude that didn't waste my time, felt really, really good. And there's been times where because again, I don't think people can do it for very long. They can't talk deep for very long. So once it starts getting light again, once they start going, yeah, I'm going to, start my own business, make $1 million, I'm gonna have Porsche and chicks all over me, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, see you later.
He's like, I'm in the jungles of
Yeah,
Cambodia
yeah.
with my brother.
With my brother, and then I usually, if the person can do it for a little bit, some can do it for longer than others, but if they start getting light again, I just go, oh, wow, nice to meet you, see you later.
And then you run into people like me where you're like, oh, I shouldn't have had that meaningful conversation because now I can't get rid of this guy.
No, again, I've had students who try to hit me up, and former students of mine, they go like, oh, let's talk about it, and they can't, dude. They're not mentally able to, they're not mature enough, they don't want to really know. They want to come and brag to me about their life and how great their life is. And I'm like, dude, I don't want to talk about that kind of stuff. I want to talk about real life. I don't want to talk about fantasy life. And by the way, I think that can happen online or in person, both ways. Meaning, we can have superficial conversations in person or online. And we can have meaningful conversations in person and online. I mean, there was times where you were really far away and we talked online about some deep stuff. So I don't think social media necessarily has to be superficial. I think it tends to be. I think a majority of it is. And everyone's trying to impress everybody with their Facebook life, that it's the best, that they're always traveling, and they're always fit, and they're always eating nice dinners and all that stuff. But I think it can be deep. I think it can be. And by the way, that unfollow button, holy moly, that thing's beautiful.
Magical.
Oh my God.
Don't hurt feelings.
Oh
and you don't have to
man. I have like 900 people on Facebook, and I think I see maybe 200 of them. Because honest to God, as soon as somebody posts something that I go, oh, that was stupid. That was like, I feel like I'm dumber for having read that or listened to that or seen that. Unfollow. And then if somebody's offensive or racist, even as a joke, I'm like, you're done. Unfriended. Like I don't have time, and especially there. That's so easy to pink. It's so easy. And then again, if let's say I've had people come to me and be like, "What's up? You unfriending me?" And they try to act like I'm immature. They're like, "That's really immature. That's real petty." I'm like, "No, actually, coming at me angry over being unfriended on Facebook, that's immature and petty. I'm willing to talk about why. Remember what you said, dude? This is what you said. How's that funny? How is it funny to be racist?" And they're like, "Oh, well, it's just a joke." And I go, "Well,
Wasn't that good of a joke?
yeah. Or you're not a comedian. And second, I'm okay. Like, that's why I unfriended you, because you are racist." And they're like, "No, I'm not. It's just blah, blah, and what about them and they?" And I'm like, I'm not here to convince you not to be racist. I'm just letting you
Hate who you want.
Yeah.
But I don't have to watch it.
Right, and I don't have to be around.
Yeah, and that's another one. One that I have to do myself is when people will be sharing like crude videos just for like people to do it. And it's funny because it's almost like the yes no thing of like I'm afraid to unfollow them because then I have that conversation, but I need to just stand up for myself. But yeah, I think this is the perfect spot to end. Comment any questions you guys have.
Yeah, hey, make sure you subscribe, like the videos. It helps get the word out there.
Yeah, definitely.
We're
Gets
gonna keep
more
doing
people
this
seeing
even if nobody watches it.
Yeah.
This is just good for us.
Definitely. Thank you.
Yeah, man.
It's just growing. It's just growing.